Indeed, Frankie, it is definitely going to be a busy one. Well, voters across the U.S. heading to the polls today in a historic presidential election. So what is in store for today and the days to come? Joining me now, Spencer Critchley, author and Democratic campaign advisor who has worked for both of Barack Obama's presidential campaigns and helped out on Hillary Clinton's campaign as well. The wealth of knowledge here. Good morning to you, Spencer. Thank you for joining.
Good morning. Great to join you.
So let's talk about today. What is happening in both camps right now? What can be done in both camps?
Well, the campaigning is over now, and really a lot of it is waiting. Now, that doesn't mean the campaign staff are not busy. Certainly in my experience, you work all the way through to the closing of the last poll, doing everything you can to get out the vote. So the persuasion part is over, but the staff is going to be working hard to just try to encourage people to vote. And of course, the candidate will pitch in as well. There's an operation known as the boiler room where there will be staff just sucking in enormous amounts of data from all over the country and getting the candidate and the running mate and the surrogates to be making radio interviews at the last minute, phone calls, whatever it takes to just encourage people to vote. But the campaigning as such ended yesterday.
Spencer, let's rewind a little bit to what got us to where we are right now. When you talk about the polls, let's talk about some of the polls before this day of the poll that is showing the numbers showing that Biden has a lead. But how much do the campaigns look at these polls? How accurate can they be?
The presidential campaigns have their own internal polling, which is often better than the public polling that we see, as it's called. That said, it usually matches up reasonably well. The Obama campaigns just had amazingly good internal data, both from their internal professional polling and also just from the thousands and thousands of very disciplined volunteers they had on the ground. So the Obama campaigns in particular had a great understanding of what was going on. A lot of Obama veterans are working on the Biden campaign, and they're bringing the same level of smarts to the effort this time. So they pay a great deal of attention to polls because it's so important for how you deploy your resources. You only have this limited amount of time, especially with the people at the top of the ticket, and that time has to be spent as if it's the extremely precious resource that it is.
Spencer, when we look at how many people have already cast a ballot, nearly 100 million, and I was just going back to some of the numbers from 2016, I think it was 137 million ballots cast. So what does that say about people's appetite right now?
It really does seem that there's just a historic level of interest and concern in this election. Some of it, of course, is simply driven by the pandemic and people not wanting to show up in person to vote the way they might have in the past. But by all reports, this is just an extraordinary level of interest, which is one of the few bright spots from the past 4 years. I think that we in the United States, and by the way, I used to live in Toronto. I was born in Canada, so it's great to be talking to you for that reason this morning as well. I think in many ways we just got spoiled. We're in modern democracies, we're in the position of kids who were born rich, basically, with no idea how that fortune was created. In this case, the fortune is the precious gift of democracy, and we just haven't been paying enough attention to it, assuming somebody was taking care of it. And of course, we're supposed to be taking care of it, and we weren't. So one of the few bright spots, as I say, of the past 4 years, I think, is that Americans may be waking up to the fact that it's important to spend at least a few minutes each week thinking about being a citizen.
When we talk about being a Canadian citizen, and of course now you're speaking to personal experience, why should Canadians care about what happens?
Well, of course, the United States, whether you want to pay attention to it or not, you really don't have that much choice, do you? Because it just is the most powerful country in the world. So, you know, as they say, if America sneezes, the world catches a cold. And, you know, what happens in the United States matters. I know from having been on both sides of the border, sometimes it seems like the U.S. doesn't pay all that much attention to the rest of the world because sometimes it seems like it doesn't have to. But another thing that we're all discovering, and hopefully more Americans are discovering, is that we are all connected in this world, and with great power comes great responsibility. And the United States has really shirked that responsibility the last 4 years or so. If we're going to be this powerful, we have to do a better job of running things.
Before we let you go, Spencer, I just quickly want to get your take on the next steps. Again, we might not have the result tomorrow, or do you anticipate we might?
I think it's possible we'll have it tonight. Boy, I sure hope so, because I've been thinking about and writing about this for well over 5 years. And that's just me. That's obviously just a tiny part of this. The entire country just wants this to be over, I think, no matter how they feel about the outcome. But I think we're only going to know this evening if there's a Biden landslide, especially if he wins Florida and some of those crucial early states to follow. Then we might have at least a good idea. But if that doesn't happen, this could take a while.
I'll get the coffee on. I can't even say coffee properly because I'm already anticipating being tired, Spencer. I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for your insight. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll get the coffee on. There it is.